So if you are using the video-based coaching and instructions and demonstration as intended, you should already have a topic sentence for each of these parts of your essay. Keep in mind that in coaching and giving you requirements for these parts of your essay, I am also at the same time teaching you. You're still learning about Aristotle and a method that is implied in his golden mean, the golden mean part of his theory. So you're still learning. So this is partly lecture as well. You're learning how to apply this stuff like a philosopher, as Aristotle might if he was to break it down very simplistically for us. Okay, so in this video, we will now focus on the last one. We got to the first bullets, right? But now we're going to focus on developing the second or the next part or the next element or intellectual move, I should say, for these parts. So the first intellectual move was a compositional move from the standpoint of philosophy. You directly tell your reader what it is you're going to focus on without actually having a discussion. It's just a declaration of your topic and what you'll focus on. Now the next intellectual move is to start to define the character trait that will be of focus. You're not going to define stuff that you've already defined in paragraph 1. That's out of the way. At this point, you're just using those concepts that you talked about in paragraph 1. However, since you haven't provided a definition of cowardice, but that is what I would like for you to talk about in this particular paragraph, foolhardiness in this paragraph, and courage in this paragraph, we need to define these terms. Again, this is an important part of thinking philosophically, thinking like a virtue ethicist. So let's focus on this part now. So remember, I'm using as an example rudeness, courtesy, and sycophancy, but you are defining cowardice, courage, and foolhardiness. So using this as an example, okay, this goes with the document that we went over. I know that I need to provide 2 definitions for an extreme of deficiency. And I also know I can only use the approved resources. So that means I have to go back up into the step 8 folder for weeks 7 and 8 and look at and make use of only the sources that are provided here. So I have 5 sources that I could look through. I recommend that you look at definitions in at least 3 dictionaries. If you want to be really thorough and systematic, then you should look at definitions in all of the dictionaries. Remember what the document said and what I talked about in presenting the overview of this part of the discussion and application of Aristotle's virtue ethics. I said that you not only do you need to find 2 definitions, each one from a different dictionary, but that you need to find the most useful ones. So I'm going to go ahead and start with one that I just added, which is the Cambridge Essential American English Dictionary. It's very important that you click on the links within the Blackboard for your dictionaries. Why is that? Because Cambridge has other dictionaries. So they have English dictionaries for the English language usage in Britain. They may also have English dictionaries for English language uses in Australia. And there can be different ways of using different words. So it's very important, especially if English is your second language, to make sure you're using the dictionaries in parts 3, 4, and 5, because these dictionaries tell you how words are used in American English. Not only that, but the way they break down the definitions in these American English dictionaries, some of them are definitely more suitable for those who are learning English or learning to write at a more complex level in English. So you really need to make sure that you're clicking on the links for the dictionaries within the step 8, within this folder, because this will take you directly to the approved source. I do not want you citing, for example, the Cambridge Dictionary for British English, for example. It needs to be this dictionary here. So let's go ahead and click on this one. And in my example, I'm going to look up rudeness. You might get a message like this. All you have to do is look for a link, and then you'll just click on that. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about that. So this is, as you can see, it says Essential American English Dictionary, popular searches, browse the Essential American English Dictionary. So I want to look up rudeness. So I'm going to go to the letter R. Okay. And then just like if you were using a physical dictionary, I need to start thumbing through the pages, so to speak. So here are the words that you need to look through. So rudeness is R-U-D. So I know that it's going to be here between R-O-U and R-U-T. So I'm going to click there to narrow my search. Then I'm going to look for the word rude. Okay. Now, you might not find the word rudeness. When you look up the word cowardice, you might actually find the word cowardly, which is fine. But I don't find rudeness, so I'm going to go with rude, which is fine. Okay. So here I have behaving in a way that is not polite and upsets other people. So rude is the adjective form, but it should also have the noun form. Let's see if it has it here. Look, so you can see rudeness is the noun form of the word. All right. So that's fine. We can still use the definition that we found. So I'm going back up here. So I can still say that rudeness is, and then I can say rudeness occurs when you are behaving in a way that is not polite or upsets other people. So, of course, it would help to know what context I am applying this to. So let's imagine, let's just pick something really simple, really basic, nothing too complex. But let's say that you are, I guess we could apply it to being a nurse, right? So let's just say we're not worried about being a COVID, well, no, I think I'm going to apply it to being a professor. I'm going to just speak from my own experience. So I'm going to say, okay, what would it look like if we reason from the extremes? What would it look like for Dr. Carrillo or for any professor to be friendly when it comes to her interaction with students? So that's my context. That would be my paragraph 2 if I was doing this essay based on that topic. So what kinds of, so that's the question. Yeah, so I'm going to formulate my paragraph 2 in the form of a question. So what would it look, so what is it that professors do? What is it that Dr. Carrillo does? What kind of interactions does she have with students? What does she talk to students about? How does she communicate with them? Under what conditions might she receive emails or text or whatnot? You know, how might she communicate things in writing and syllabus and whatever? I'm thinking about like, well, what would it mean for her to interact with students or, you know, in any way, or to communicate with students in a friendly manner? Well, I'm going to reason from the extremes. So what would it look like if I were rude? What would it look like if I were a sycophant, right? And so I'm going to reason from the extremes. So, of course, I'm starting with rudeness, or what it means to be rude. So since I can still use this definition, I am going to go ahead and do it. And so what you can do is you can copy it, but you need to make sure that you format it, because when you copy from online, sometimes the formatting looks really terrible by the time you get it into a Word document. Okay, so you're not going to have a diagram. I'm just leaving the diagram up as a visual to remind you of what it is that we're doing, okay? So let's say, you know, I've done my introductory paragraph, I've done my second paragraph, or maybe I'm giving some context. Here are the different kinds of things that Dr. Carrillo does. These are different modalities by which she communicates with students. These are the different kinds of interactions she has with them, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now I'm ready to reason from the extremes. I'm in part 3, and I have a topic sentence. So imagine I have a topic sentence. So topic sentence, of course, I don't want to write a topic sentence because I coached you on how to do your topic sentence. I want you to figure it out for yourselves given what I said. So here I have a topic sentence, and now I need to introduce my, okay, and then I should have, you know, a sentence about which character trait I'm going to focus on. Okay, so that's where I will say I. So the topic sentence, we can say topic sentences, okay? So now, let's say I've got my topic sentence 2 at most, right? Where I say I'm going to focus on this. So one of my sentences will surely be that I'm going to focus on rudeness, or what it might look like for Dr. Carrillo to express rudeness or be rude to students. All right, so then I will say, then I'm going to go for my definition. So let's just focus on the definition part now. Okay, so the dictionary, let's assume I've looked through all the dictionaries and I've decided that this is a really usable definition given what I said in paragraph 2. So I need to remember from which dictionary I'm getting it. Of course, it's from the Cambridge Dictionary. So now what I'm going to do is you can either just type it, of course, just looking at it, or you can copy and paste. If you have a hard time using formatting icons or tools online, then don't copy and paste, because sometimes you can never format it correctly because of codes that you don't see. So I recommend just typing it up. So remember, when in the document that we looked at in a previous video, it said that you can't just plop down a definition, that you have to use introductory clauses. So there's lots of ways to introduce a definition. So you can say, according to, and of course, let me make sure I get the, let's look and see what the official name of the dictionary is. Okay, so I'm using Cambridge. So this is the Cambridge Essential American English Dictionary. Okay, so I can say, according to the Cambridge Essential American English Dictionary, comma, X means quotation marks. Okay, so that's going to be your template. So you might want to go to your document where we covered what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Let me see if I can pull it up right now. You might want to go to this document and right here, take notes, okay? Or you can add it to the very end where I have other. So there are a variety of ways you can do this. So one template is to cite the source first, the dictionary. So in, and then the name of the dictionary, comma, and then mention the word that you are going to define, and then introduce the definition with quotation marks. You can also just start off with the word. Courage means, that's an introductory clause, and then you would put the citation afterwards. So if I do it this way, I can say, according to the Cambridge American English Dictionary. Okay, and like I said, I recommend that you type it, that you don't copy and paste. Then what you do in philosophy, when you're not actually using a word, and I lectured on this and some of you answered a related question for extra credit early in the semester. In philosophy, when you are talking about a word, but not actually using or applying the word, what you do is you put the word in quotation marks. So add this to your notes in that document where I talk about, embedding your dictionary into this. So what you'll need to do is put quotation marks around the word that you are defining. So for me, in my example, I'm going to have rudeness. According to the Cambridge American Dictionary, rudeness, and then you can use a variety of words. You could say refers to, means, should be defined. There's different things that you can say here. So according to rudeness means, has the following meaning. Then I'm using colon marks because of the syntax. Has the following. Usually when I use a phrase like that at the end of the sentence, I use colon marks. Now, what is the definition? Behaving in a way that is not polite and upsets other people. Okay. So what's wrong with this? If I have a paragraph and I do this, this might be considered plagiarism. Why? Because you do not have quotation marks around the rest of the sentence. And so I might be wondering, well, I haven't memorized definitions, you guys, and I haven't even used those dictionaries. I've been using other dictionaries whenever I need to look at the word, or I just do a Google search and pull up all kinds of dictionaries. I don't know if you're paraphrasing or whatnot. Okay, I don't know if you're giving me, or whatever, but you need to use the quotation marks. So when you give me your definitions from the dictionary, you need to make sure you put it in quotation marks, which signals. It says, "Hey, Dr. Curvillo, here is the step you told me to take. I have a definition. It's in quotation marks from a dictionary on the approved list." I see that this meets those requirements so far. Now remember, one of the other requirements is that your introductory clause must fluidly introduce your definition, and there are still other things to consider. So let's look at the syntax. So what some students don't pay attention to is what happens to the syntax, how you string the words in your introductory clause by the time you transition to and in transitioning to your quote. So let's read this for flow. According to the Cambridge American English Dictionary, rudeness has the following meaning: behaving in a way that is not polite or upsets other people. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so since you already cited that this is according to, and then make sure that how you're doing this corresponds with the MLA method. So let's do another example of how we might do this. Okay. So I could say, I'm gonna copy and paste some of this just to save time. So I could start off by saying Cambridge American English Dictionary, and then I could put my verb here, defines rudeness, and then I could say as, and then I could have comma, behaving in a way that is not polite or upsets other people. So here I have the name of the dictionary, then I have the term mentioned, then I have the verb phrase that introduces the quoted definition. Here I have the name of the source, a verb phrase for what is being defined, the word is mentioned in quotation marks, and then the definition. So these are definitely two ways that you can do it. Let's go over one more way that you can do this. So another way that you can tackle this is you can say something like, you can actually start off with the word that you want to define. It's not a quote, so you cannot start off, as far as I'm concerned, a paragraph that is well written with just a quote. You need some kind of introduction to the quote. However, when you're mentioning a word, you're not quoting anything that somebody else said. When you have a quote around a single word, at least in the context of this assignment, you're mentioning a word. So the quotation marks have a slightly different function. Okay, so rudeness is defined by, and then you can have this, Cambridge Dictionary as okay, rudeness is defined by Cambridge American English Dictionary as, okay, so here is an example of how you can start off with the term to be defined, right, a character trait, then you have your verb phrase, and then you mention the source. Let's look at one more example. You could say something like this. One definition for, if you want to be really fancy, it might give you extra credit, is to use the word lexical, one lexical. Okay, so why am I introducing the word lexical? If you paraphrase what I say here at the end of your essay, I will give you a course point. Maybe I'll give you 5 course points. So lexical definitions are those which are found in dictionaries. Now, ultimately, philosophers are concerned with concepts and their meaning, but not merely lexical definitions, because what lexical definitions do, which are the ones you get in dictionaries, are tell you how a word is commonly used. Okay, so that said, philosophers want to penetrate deeper. They might say, well, this is how the word's commonly used, but have we really gotten into the essence, the true meaning of how we're using the word and how the concept that we're referring to with the word? So by using the word lexical, we're just noting that we're not being completely philosophical with our conceptual, with defining the word that names our fundamental and powerful concept for a given paragraph. We're saying we're taking a little shortcut. But since you guys are also high school students and sophomores, I'm taking into context how much intellectual work I want you to do. So we're using the shortcut of using lexical definitions. So one lexical definition for rudeness is, and here, I don't really think you need a comma here, is behaving in a way that is not polite and upsets other people. Now here, the problem is I don't know which source you're using. And if I don't know which source you're using, that is going to be a major deduction, because I need to be able to check for accuracy. I might look at your definition and be perplexed about it or be interested in it. And so I might go and check it, but I can't go and check it if you don't have the source. And so, yeah, there'll be penalties for that. So then this is where you would use the MLA standard of an internal citation. So you need an internal citation. I'm going to put IC for right here. But what that means, of course, is you need to go to MLA and then look up how would you do an internal citation using MLA for a word that you looked up in a dictionary. What goes in here? All right, so I've given you 4 templates. You can use any of these templates if you like to change style, you don't like to say something the same way over and over again, what you can do in your paragraphs is you can shift. So when you're defining courage, you could use this template. When you're defining, when you're defining cowardice, you can use this template. When you're defining foolhardiness, you could use this one. And then when you're defining, and this is spelled incorrectly, sorry. That's a typo. And then when you're defining foolhardiness, you could use this template. However, if you like to be like really systematic and more kind of black and white, you could use one of these templates for every single word. Okay, so so far, I'm going to go with this one. I'll use this one right here just for this example. Now, what's wrong with this? There's nothing wrong with this setup itself, but what are the requirements for this part of for parts 3, 4, and 5? So far, I have how many definitions? 1. Can I go back to Cambridge American English Dictionary and see if they have another definition? No. Which reminds me, I just remembered something that I want you to add to your notes. Down here. Other definition requirements. Write this down, guys. Do not just give me synonyms as if a synonym is a definition. Sometimes I have students, what they'll do is they will go to a thesaurus and then they'll give me a word or list of words, and as if a word or a synonym or a list of synonyms is a definition. And that is not the same thing as a definition. That's why we do not have a thesaurus in our approved list. So when you're using the dictionaries, dictionaries often give you synonyms. Do not use the synonyms part of the dictionaries to meet the requirement of giving me a definition. Also, oh, wait a minute. Do I want to say anything else about that? No. All right. So let's go ahead and go up here. So I need another definition. So then, of course, I can't go back to Cambridge American English Dictionary. So I have to go to another dictionary. I think I'm going to go to Macmillan for this one. Let's say I've looked through all the dictionaries. So again, you might have to click on this or you might be taken to the link directly. All right, so now I need to find, okay, where can I find open dictionary, okay? So now I need to be able to look for a word. So you can't quite see it. There it is, search Macmillan Dictionary. That might have been available on the other page and I didn't notice it. Okay, so now I'm going to look up rude. Let's see if they have rudeness. Oh, they do have rudeness, okay. And notice that my previous definition had no version of the word rude. Okay, so not polite. I do not want to seem rude. Whoa, 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 whoa. What happened there? Okay. Let's go back up. So the first definition is not polite. That's okay, but it's not a lot, but maybe that's the best second definition I will find. Look at how they show you how to use it. This is especially, okay, because I think you're sophomores, 15 or 16 years old, you're still learning how to use language in more complex, sophisticated ways, much less a philosophical way, which is very complex, very, very different, very advanced. It's a very advanced way of thinking and writing for a sophomore in high school. That said, this is a college course, so I'm still expecting you to master this stuff. So make sure you guys, and especially if you are speaking English as your second language, look at the examples of how you can use a word. That is so important. Okay, so then we have offensive as another definition. We have used by things that happen suddenly and have a strong effect on you, made or designed in a simple way. So notice what this is saying. Old-fashioned. So we don't want an old-fashioned way of using words, so use the dictionary critically. This is a definition that is mainly literary. Well, we don't want definitions that are mainly literary. We're talking about human behaviors, attitudes, ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. So those would not be good versions of the definition. Offensive, a rude work or joke. Okay, so no. Now, what I'm seeing about Macmillan, I've never used it before, is they have very, very short definitions, and they're okay. So that said, even though I'm not that crazy about how short this is, it does say that, it means to not be polite. Let's see what else this dictionary has. So rudely, that's just the adverb form, rudeness. Okay, so that's what I was thinking of, right? That rudeness is what I'm actually trying to define, but rude gets to the word. So rude, we've got word forms. It tells us that it gives us 3 definitions. And then here, this video might be helpful, by the way. We're just going to say not polite. Okay, so you could use that one, but let's see. Do I already have not polite? So behaving in a way that is not polite and upsets other people. Well, we've already said that. So another thing that I want you to think about in finding your definitions is make sure that one of your definitions has something in it that the other one does not. So our first definition does talk about not being polite and upsetting other people. But so does the second definition has also something about not being polite. Can we find a definition that adds something new to our understanding of the word? So then we're going to go back to our sources. And we're going to try Merriam-Webster. Okay, so word, rudeness. Okay. Ooh, this is a really good counterexample. Look at this. The quality or state of being rude. Look at your notes. What did I say here? No version, and notice this is about content. This content is a subheading for these two, for this right here. So no version of the word. Also, I just stated another missing requirement. Put it right here under content, that each definition should have something unique to say. The 2 definitions can have something in common. So like for rudeness, both of my definitions can say something about not being polite, but still those definitions should have something unique added to or part of what is being said about the meaning of the word. So look at this though. No version of the word you're trying to define can be in the definition itself. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is a great example of what I'm talking about right here. Rude. Oh, no. Where's what happened to my dictionary that I was using? Okay, there we go. So here, when I looked up rudeness in this dictionary, it said the quality, a state of being rude, a rude action. Do you see how a version of this word is being used to define the word I'm trying to make sense of? If I don't already know what the word rude, see the root word rude and rudeness? These definitions assume that I already know what it means to be rude. I don't know what it means to be rude. That's why I don't understand what rudeness is. And of course, I know that you guys have used words like probably at least courage before and maybe even coward, right? But in philosophy and in ethics, and especially with Aristotle, we're really trying to get clear about our concepts and what they mean. That is a philosophical concern. So this is not a usable definition, and you would get a major deductions for using definitions such as this one that have some version of the word that you're trying to define, right, within the definition. So this is what I would call a useless definition. If I don't already know what rude means, then this definition does not help me to understand what rudeness is. So I need to keep searching to see if maybe there's a better definition in here. See more. Okay, so if you run into this problem with the dictionary, like I'm not seeing any other definitions for rudeness. I'm not seeing a better one, okay? What you will want to do is you'll want to look for the version of the word that is in the definition. Since this definition gets me nowhere with rudeness, what I need to do then is say, okay, let me look in this dictionary for the word that it's using to define what I'm trying to understand. So now I'm going to search for the word rude. Okay. Now, being in a rough or unfinished state, crude. What else do I have? Look at all the definitions it has. Natural, raw, primitive, undeveloped, simple, elemental. Okay, so this is also where it comes into play what I said, the point that I made about keeping context in mind. I'm not just gonna pick a definition real fast. A lot of these definitions are useless, okay, in terms of the context. That is something that I notice in society and people across all platforms, all topics, social media, email, communication, everything. People do not provide enough context or they do not keep in mind the context in which they are communicating about something or thinking through something. So remember, for you guys, the context is the things that COVID-19 nurses were going through during the height of the pandemic. The context for my example is interacting with students, communicating with them, whether it's lecture, whether it's written instructions, emails, text, videos, or whatnot. Okay, so since I've got that context in mind for me, I need to find a definition of rudeness that will be most suitable to the practical context or state of affairs that I'm dealing with. And right now, these are not really looking usable. So I'm going to keep looking. Lacking refinement or delicacy, ignorant, unlearned, inelegant, uncouth. You might find that you need to look up other definitions to make sure you understand something. Marked by or suggestive of lack or training of skill, robust, sturdy, occurring abruptly. Yeah, that doesn't look very good. Occurring abruptly and disconcertingly. Okay, so again, you don't want to use synonyms. So we're going to go back up to here and we're going to look at this again. So rude, adjective, rudest. Okay, being in a rough, that's not really usable. That's not usable. Lacking refinement or delicacy. So maybe look at this: uncivilized, coarse, vulgar. Maybe those could be words used to describe how I might interact with students if I were rude. So uncivilized, savage. I don't think this is the meaning you're going to get, but what's that song? Was it with Beyonce and the Stallion or whoever that is? Guys, I'm 49, I don't know. Isn't there that song, Savage? In that song, savage is being used in a slightly different way than you might find it defined. And of course, words can change meaning over time. But I thought it was interesting to find that coarse or vulgar, uncouth, inelegant, lacking refinement or delicacy. Right now, this seems like the most usable definition that I can use from Merriam-Webster. And notice how different it is from the dictionary definition that we found in the other one. But still, that is something that I require, is that you find different ones. So then you might even click on things like that. So I'm like, uncivilized. Let's see what the meaning of that is. Not civilized. Bad definition. Remote from settled areas, wild, barbarous. It's barbarous. So if it's uncivilized, I might want to look up the word civilized and see if that might be good. If I say, well, maybe the opposite of uncivilized is to act civilized. So what does it mean to act civilized? Coarse, vulgar, ignorant, unlearned. Let's look at uncouth. Awkward and uncultivated in appearance, manner, or behavior. Lack of polish and grace. So maybe the part of definition for rudeness we could choose is the one that says uncouth. That's looking more usable right there. Awkward and uncultivated in appearance or manner. Okay, so I'm not really convinced yet that I want to go with that dictionary definition. So as you can see, I'm having to do a little bit more research. So let's go back into then, I wanted to show you this one. Let's try the Longman Dictionary. So this one you're supposed to have a subscription to or an account for, but you can do a trial. So you would click on this one, the first dictionary icon, Dictionary of American English, and then you can sign up for a 30-day trial. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, okay, not registered. So I have to register, need to register. So I'm going to pause the video and register, and then we'll get back to this. So just clicked on register. Okay, phishing page blocked for your protection. Take me back to safety. Okay, so I'll let you decide if you want to use the Longman Dictionary. I've never used it before. As far as I know, it's an okay dictionary, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then don't use it. So I'm going to go to another dictionary. I'll go to the American Heritage Dictionary. Search rudeness. Okay. Ill-mannered, discourteous, or insulting. Was offended by. Whoa, this is a much better definition. So as you guys see, it pays to do your research when it comes to these dictionary definitions. This is a much more usable definition for what I am focused on for my context and application of an extreme, that being rude, having too little of that, which makes you friendly. So unpleasantly focused or harsh. Notice that this says that this is a chiefly British usage, vigorous or robust. So now that we want to stay away from mostly British usages or even Australian usages. This one is archaic, lacking education or refinement. So we don't want to use definitions that are considered archaic, and you want to stay away from definitions that are primarily used by English speakers in other languages. So you might want to add to your requirement here, right? Other requirements for the definition. You can put it under content. You could put stay away from definitions that are used primarily in other countries. Stay away from definitions that are archaic. So you'll know that because the dictionary will tell you that. So here we see that this is a primarily British use of the word, and that this is over here is an archaic use of the word. Here are some really good ones. So this one, ill-mannered, discourteous, or insulted. Don't include an example. So examples, so again, going to your notes. Here's your notes. Add. Do not include examples from the dictionary. Okay? Do not do that. All right, so if I was to use this definition, I would just use this part right here. Undeveloped or uncivilized, primitive, not really relevant, crude, unfinished, made with limited skill, no, in a natural. So this is more like the definition in Merriam-Webster, and it's not really directly related or relevant to my practical consequence. Unpleasantly forceful or harsh, faced rude winds, received a rude shock. This is a little bit more in line with how I might want to use the word given my practical context. If I say consequence, I keep meaning context. But really, this is the most useful one given my agenda for the paragraph that I'm focused on and what I'm trying to do. Okay, so I'm going to use this definition. Let me find my Word document. Okay, so now I need some kind of transition. So you got to have fluidity between your paragraphs, okay? I mean, when it comes from one sentence to the other. So I don't want you to just plop down another definition. You already told me that you're defining rudeness. So we want to say something. You don't want to just, I don't want to just say rudeness. I guess you could say that. So then I could say again, I could use the same template. Rudeness is defined by such and such dictionary as blah, blah, blah. But I think I'm going to use one of the other templates to add variety. If you want to use the same template throughout, I'm cool with that. Okay, but you can do different things. So you could even have a little transitional phrase like another definition for rudeness. You could do something like that. Or you could say another definition I came across, or another meaning I found for rudeness. Another way to define the term rudeness. So right now I've just given you like 4 examples. You should write all of those down and then use one of those examples, or if you want to come up with your own, go for it. So another definition for rudeness, and here I could say comes from the American Heritage Dictionary or is as follows. I'm going to go ahead and say, since I already named the dictionary before I give the definition, I don't want to just give the definition. Why? Not in this particular way that I've set it up. Because if I give my second definition without naming the source, then the reader might think that the second definition comes from the same source. Can you see that? Since I already named the dictionary here, when I introduce another definition, I need to go ahead and name the new dictionary. Otherwise, the reader might, at least till the end of the sentence, think that I am getting the definition from the same dictionary, and you don't want that. If you use a different template for your first definition, for example, if you put the name of the dictionary in an internal citation at the end of the sentence and you don't embed the name of the dictionary within your sentence, then you don't have to, you don't name necessarily the name of the dictionary in the sentence. So keep that in mind. So that's another requirement. If you name the dictionary in your sentence as part of your introduction to the definition, then you have to do it for both definitions. So in that way, you do have to be systematic. If you don't name the dictionary within your sentence before you introduce your definition, then you have to do the same thing with the second sentence. So just keep that in mind. So another definition for rudeness comes from, so I'm going to have to name the dictionary, American Heritage Dictionary, and it is as follows. So notice that I'm using a really nice introductory clause that transitions me and lets the reader know, hey, I'm about to give you another definition, and it's going to come from a different source. But because of the way I've set it up, I've decided to use and it as follows. So right here, I'm making use of one of those other templates that I gave you to introduce a definition. So this one was ill-mannered, discourteous, or insulting. And remember, you do not include any examples. Okay, so definitions are so important in philosophy. If you were in one of my traditional courses, I would actually add a step. So I just want to help you appreciate that. If you were in one of my other classes, I would then have you combine these. After doing this, you'd have to combine to form one really well done mega definition by combining both definitions together. But I'm not going to make you guys do that. All right, so in effect, what I've done is I've exemplified what you're going to do relative to the definition part of your essay, that is parts 3, 4, and 5. That is, we have just gone over we have just gone over the second bullet for each paragraph. As you can see, it requires a little bit of research. The definitions that you find must be those that you think critically about. You're looking for the best definitions, given the requirements that I have presented to you via this document here. I've given you an example of how to do what you need to do when it comes to the definitions part. So far, you are able to construct the introductory sentence and definition sentences or sentences and definitions for your paragraph, for each paragraph. And that is basically, by the time you've done this, you've constructed 40 to 50% of the paragraph.